Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Safe Room, a survival horror game club podcast. It's Grace, and with me is my co-host, Rose.
In my west dreams, I see that town, Sywin Hill.
Sywin Hill. Body of 45-year-old man found dead in Sywin Hill.
John Wee Kelly.
John Wee Kelly. That was also just like total shot in the dark guess at James's age. He could be younger or older. I don't know. We played Silent Hill 2 again. I played. Well, how far did you? I guess I can say I played Remake and Silent Hill 2, and basically did a section of the original Silent Hill 2. And then played that same section in the remake. Which was kind of insane to do, actually. But I don't think anybody else did that. So I think I have insights because I put in the work.
I played the remake and then messed around with various versions of 2 and landed on the HD collection for some reason. I think it was mainly I was waiting for the Alan Wake DLC to download, and then it turned into a 100 gigabyte download, and I was like, well, I guess I'm playing Silent Hill 2 then. And then I just couldn't stop playing it. I'm in the middle of the hospital right now. I'll probably finish this save since I'm like halfway through it by now.
Yeah, you literally are.
Shorter game.
Yeah. It's like the new one's like twice. Well, it's a little less than twice as long. It's like 13 or 14 hours as compared to 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think my final save was around 12.
Yeah, on Steam it says 14, I think, for me, but I know that I left it on once or twice, so
right,
without meaning to. So, you know, I'm not sure that that's accurate.
We did the fucking thing.
We sure did. Oh yeah, it's not installed. I uninstalled it literally that evening, which
you
I guess
literally
maybe
uninstalled it.
Yeah, I'm fucking done. I'm not playing that shit again.
I did not uninstall it, but it's because it's on my PS5, which doesn't have many games on it.
Which has no games.
So,
yeah. Well, I did. It was bracing because I re-downloaded Alan Wake 2 to do the DLC, which I haven't really played at all.
Yeah, me neither.
But I was like, oh, this is 100 gigabytes. Like Silent Hill 2 Remake is like 33 gigabytes, which is pretty small.
You know, it is efficient with its size, and I think that's commendable.
I agree. Starting off on a positive note.
All right. I'm putting my glasses on.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I've got my glasses on too.
I'm ready to talk about video games now.
Mm-hmm. It's very serious.
I like this game more than you did.
I think that's true. Yes.
I think playing the game, I really enjoyed. it. I think it's pretty fun survival horror game. Some of the changes are okay by me. And we'll get into that. And then I finished the game and saw how they handled a couple scenes towards the end, and I fucking hated it.
It's kind of... I think it kind of peaks around the hospital. I think that's like the best section.
I agree, and the hospital is my favorite level in the game.
Yeah.
For the remake.
And then it kind of fucks up the like descent into hell through the prison and stuff. And then it really fucks up the last couple hours, I would say. I think the thing that's kind of weird about the reception to this, even though it's not unpredictable, I would say, but I do think that I don't know what people were scared that Bloober Team would make, because I was scared that they would make this, and they did. right? Like a super slick, like version that kind of reconfigures a lot of what is interesting about Silent Hill 2 into a like more digestible, slicker format, right? Like this plays like Alan Wake 2, this plays like the Dead Space remake, this plays like the Resident Evil remakes, right? Like this is the mode of survival horror that is now kind of in vogue outside of like maybe first person stuff. They do, it successfully translates that, and it's very slick at doing that. But I do kind of feel that transition, you lose some pretty fundamental things about what makes Silent Hill 2 special to me.
Yeah. I am going to push back on that a little bit, only because I've played the medium. I've played a little bit of Layers of Fear.
Yeah.
I haven't played Observer. I've played a little bit of Blair Witch.
You have some experience with Bloober
They
Team.
haven't made a game that feels good to play.
Right.
And it was the surprising thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't so surprised with the direction they took with it.
Right.
But that the gameplay is actually good and like
yeah,
hits for me, and like there were tense gameplay moments is not something that I've seen them do successfully.
Yeah, well, I think that is partially because like a lot of their early output, like the Layers of Fear games and Observer, are first person like walking simulator horror games.
Yeah.
Right.
And the medium is also this, but it's third person.
Right. Yeah.
Also fixed camera angle.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I want to check. Although, all right, we'll get into it. I think that makes sense. I do think that maybe what you're describing is maybe part of the disconnect for me, is just that did people think like Bloober Team was actively incompetent and that was going to be the issue, you know? But it didn't seem to me like when people were like looking at the early trailers and complaining about it, they weren't like, oh, like that looks so clumsy to control, just like the other Bloober Team games, you know? It was like way more about like aesthetic stuff, and that seems to have kind of been pushed to the side more or less. And I think also like I kind of wonder about this because the game itself feels designed as if you've played the original like 2 weeks ago, like ahead of release.
It really is.
Because it has all these little like vignette things you can click on that are like, oh, remember this puzzle from the last game? And like I would not have remembered the puzzle where you like melt wax into a hole with a horseshoe to open a grate. You know, I wouldn't have remembered that unless I played the original game like simultaneously. Right. So it's like,
that whole thing is really funny because they're obviously like iconic ones that I remember, but then like I'd be looking around to find the next object for the puzzle and then click on one of those and be like, okay, I guess this was the thing in the original. I don't remember what the fuck this is.
Yeah. No, it's so, but also it is this kind of like, at once, I think this is like the kind of curious tension of it, is at once like very reverent to the source material. The cutscene script is only slightly altered. Most of the changes are additions, not subtractions.
Right.
And I think that, but also it does kind of like think better of like a lot of stuff in Silent Hill 2. Which I don't know. I mean, I think I've seen people say that like this is in conversation with the original, rather, you know, a la Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I think that is kind of what it's going for. Mm-hmm. But I do think in practice, it's not different enough to do that. But it's not the same enough to be like, oh yeah, you could play this and get the Silent Hill 2 experience.
Yeah, right? I think what annoyed me the most about the moment to moment playing the game. Even though I was really enjoying it, is like I like that the fact that a bulk of the puzzles are different. It just intrinsically makes sense to me. Like, it would make sense that like if you entered the same dream world twice, things are gonna be changed around. And stuff like that. But then why would you put in those references to the puzzles from the original game?
I think part of the idea there. Oh yeah, I also didn't watch the endings. I should have done that, but anyway, not important.
I can recap for you.
yeah, please. But like, I think one of the things that there is like there's all the James corpses in the room with Eddie. You know, there's like this. I think it's insufferable. It's BioShock Infinite shit. There's always a James. There's always a Mary. Like, and I think the intention there is that like Silent Hill 2 happened in the past of this game. Like, it is a sequel to Silent Hill 2 that just has the same premise and like the same set of characters and like, you know, and that's why you have those references, even though they kind of serve as like nostalgia bait. But that's like and I just, I
just don't like that. I would much rather them just take all that stuff out if they're just gonna do it different.
Right.
Just do the different thing. Who cares?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's like kind of the thing is that for me, I mean, I guess this is like the premise. We're spoiling both these games, right? I already did. But it matters to me that James can get out. You know, that there is an ending. And in fact, it's the ending that like most people get just playing through the game. Where James leaves.
Yeah, not me. I'm suicide-filled, baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I got the first time, right?
Let me stare at that knife. Make sure I get that.
No, it's oh god. But I mean, to be clear, like I don't think that's like the definitive ending of the game or anything. I think like you know, but it there is explicitly an ending in Silent Hill that is like, oh, he leaves with Maria and the cycle repeats again, right? Like
with Laura?
With Maria specifically.
Oh, okay.
Right, because they go together and she's like coughing and he's like, you got to get that looked at or whatever.
I've never seen this ending.
You know,
I have not gone. Oh, but crucially, as we've established in Silent Hill's past, I don't look after the AI partner.
Right, yeah, right.
So, of course, I've never gotten this one.
Yeah. So I think that like, there is a built-in thing for that in the original Silent Hill 2. But I think it doesn't matter to me that it is like this purgatory experience for James, or can be if he approaches it the right way. Right? Like, I think that's like I don't know. I think it's important that he can get out. And I think it's a shame. And it's such a like multimedia franchise meta move to make it like, no, it's endlessly recurring and it's always happening and there's no end to it. And I think it just like it cheapens the thing to me, and it cheapens like the you know, I think this stuff works well for me because it's hard earned, and because like, I don't know, James has to go through something very, very difficult and like actually confront what he did in like a deep and profound way before there was even a possibility of him leaving. And the other two endings that you can get are him killing himself or, you know, running off with Maria, who's like a figment of his imagination, kind of, or like a creation of his mind to some degree, you know, that are about like, it is like tough for him to do that. And I think that like, it's, I don't know. In the words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, it's cheap grace. And maybe I'm thinking about it too, because also, I don't know. I don't mean to be like, I don't know. I feel like I've lost track of my thought a little bit, but it's just like, I don't like that it is like this endless thing. I think it is part of what makes it powerful is that it is a singular moment. right? And it's a moment that like gets interpreted and re-inflected on, but it's not like Silent Hill 2 is not a video game meta game, you know? It is like an adult horror story. And this remake turns it into, I think, a type of story that we've seen in like video games so much. You know, it is kind of a BioShock Infinite, right? And that bugs me. I don't think we need to do that.
Yeah, I didn't get that reading from it, but mainly because I don't want to get that reading from it.
Yeah, no, fair. Literally acceptable.
Yeah, because the thing that did bug me the most was those stupid memories.
Yeah.
The prime example, if we could pull an example from the game,
please.
When you go into the bowling ring, and you find that empty pizza box.
Yeah.
And James says the line to himself about how could you sit there and eat pizza?
Yeah.
To no one.
I don't know. Why did they change that scene?
I don't know.
Like, I mean, beyond, you know, the novelty factor, which is, I suppose, a valid reason.
I think they wanted to recharacterize Eddie a little bit.
Yeah, which
because in the original game, like he makes a very active decision to keep eating pizza and not go after Laura. Whereas I feel like in this one, Laura is. It probably isn't the same line, but I got the sense that like Eddie is just like, yeah, Laura just ran off. That's fine.
Right. Yeah.
And I think
there is a thing that is kind of interesting subtextually about Laura that's in both games, that Silent Hill's not dangerous for her.
Right.
You know, like she can move through it. Like everyone's worried about her, but in a real way, like she's the person who it is safe to be in. Right.
Yeah.
Well, also, also there's a question of like whether Silent Hill is really dangerous. I think is also like actually legitimately another question that you could have about what's going on in Silent 2. But anyway, yeah, and I think that makes sense. I think Eddie is the thing that I don't want to say has aged the worst, because I don't think it came off great at the time.
Right, correct.
But you know, is something that I would want to update if I were adapting it, you know? Yeah. Like if I were Christoph Gans and I was directing this film, I would want to change that stuff, you know?
Yes.
I
do think I do like the portrayal of Eddie here more.
Yeah. Also, the boss fight with him is, I think, that is the one sequence in the game where I was like, this is legitimately just an improvement. Like,
I totally agree. It is way more, it's just way creepier. They don't do the fucking pig hanging thing to symbolize Eddie being fat. And it's, the only boss fight in the game that is better.
Yes, true. Yeah. Well, Ugh. There's so much stuff, because I think this is also kind of the thing, is that because this is getting on a little bit of a different tack. But like, because the game is so long, everything happens more times. You know, like everything, every single thing. Like James jumps in more holes. He puts his hand into more gross crevices in the wall. Like 5. There's like 2 in the original game, or 1. Right? But there's like so many in this one, because they have to have the little like bespoke mechanic for like putting your hand in the wall. There's like, you know, you meet Eddie more times. Actually, I don't know if you meet Eddie more times, but you meet Angela more times. You meet Laura more times.
Yeah, I think you meet Eddie the same amount of time.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's like one more cutscene at least. No, there's 2, because you get one in. I keep thinking Heaven's Arena, which is from Hunter x Hunter. But the bar, you know, that they go to.
Yeah, they add that scene in the bar.
Which is bad.
You also see Angela an extra time too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is like it. I think this is something like the pacing of the game is really wrecked. I think by how much extended it is, and the fact that like you have enough time in each area to get like very comfortable with it. In a way that like in the, I think particularly the like prison labyrinth sequence, like the it's still so scary. The like pit in your stomach that you get when you approach like another place you have to jump down, you know? And it's like, I just jumped down somewhere. Like, it's so unnerving. And that sensation of like descending over and over again, is just not in this game, I feel like, because you have to do like an hour between each, you know, before jumping down a hole again, right? Like, it's so extended and padded out that I think like a lot of the stuff that hits really well in the original game, because it is happening pretty quickly, is like just the pacing is totally different, right? And the game doesn't like, it kind of just like adds stuff to make accommodations for that. Like, that's why, you know, you have another scene with Angela so that you like reminded who she is, and like that you have a little another beat with her, but it doesn't really add anything. Like, it's not like, it doesn't complicate what's going on with her. It doesn't like change James's relationship to her. It doesn't like inform any of that stuff. It's just like another scene.
Yeah,
for there to be like, another scene, right?
I think literally they moved dialogue from one scene to another.
Yeah.
To like accommodate that change. I could be wrong though, but I feel like that like new scene outside of the historical society, like,
yeah,
had dialogue that would come up later.
I think it does. I think there is some stuff that's original to it, but there is definitely a line or two. Yeah. You know, and I think that's, yeah, I just think that's, I mean, you know, the original exists. I've seen people describe it as like lost software, which is so dumb, because it's like
literally the fans made a better HD port before right before this game came out that you can just literally download the My Abandonware. Download it from My Abandonware, download the enhanced edition, you're good to go, bro.
Yeah.
I don't understand this. It's very easy.
And I think it is like I think there is a level, I mean, it's not even access, but it's just like knowledge, like how many people know how to do that, and are also, because I think even like, for me, like the technical part is exciting because I'm a freak. You know, like I love setting up my little emulators. I love doing my little thing. I love like jailbreaking a 3DS and then like seeing the new stuff on it and being like, ooh, I did that. Like, that's all fun to me. But for some people, that is not fun, right? Like, that is like stressful and too much work or whatever, even though like it's easy, you know?
But even if you don't want to do that, even if you don't want to go through all that, even if you don't want to, there exists a bad, mind you, version of the original game on Xbox and on fucking PlayStation Plus if you stream it, that you theoretically can go play on your PS5 or Xbox if you want to. Wouldn't recommend it, but you know, that port has its problems. I've mentioned I played a chunk of it before this. The problems are mainly, for me, audio related because they butchered the audio in that game. And songs don't loop right, and they did like surround sound to it, so like the radio, like you hear the enemy placement, even though the point of the radio is that it's supposed to make noise. You're not supposed to know where the thing is. So they fucking butchered that. But when it comes to scenes and the fog is sorry, getting off track, but like there's that scene with Maria when you first meet her on the pier. In the HD collection, since they don't render fog properly, you see that there's no water in the ocean. that would usually be masked by the fog, which is very funny.
That's so wild.
But when it comes down to it, when you are inside in that game, it looks great.
Right. Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend that, but that option is there for people who are lazy or just don't want to deal with emulation.
Right. Yeah. No, I just think it's like weird that like in a real way this will not like replace the original game, and I don't exactly have anxiety about that.
No.
But I just think I don't know. I mean, I guess I just have been thinking a lot about movies. And that you just don't have things like this in film, I think, in a weird way. Like even like Gus Van Sant's Psycho, which is like literally like a shot-for-shot recreation of the Hitchcock film, right? Yeah, apparently. I've not seen either, in fact. But like even that, like people say, oh, it feels really different. It's really weird. Like it's in color. Right? Like it feels like its own, and it's obviously all different actors, and like, you know, they had to do the set or whatever, right? Like it might even be in a different aspect ratio, right? Like that feels like its own thing, and like it will never like supersede Psycho, you know? And you have stuff like the Herzog Nosferatu, which is like also, you know, not silent, not black and white, right? But also like feels in conversation with the original film, and like has this direct, you know, it very much does not feel like, oh, I could do one better, you know? But I'm curious, like, I don't know what the Eggers one is going to look like, but I just feel like we don't really have this thing that happens. I don't know if that's just like me, like, I don't know why. I mean, I think about this with like spiritual successors, which is like the M thing, that it's like only video games have this. And like it's true, because the thing you have in literature or film is you have an influence. You know, you have like, oh, like when I was making this film, I was inspired by this other film, right? And that doesn't make it a spiritual successor. Like The Last Temptation of Christ, the Scorsese film, is not a spiritual successor of the Gospel of according to St. Matthew, right? But like, they're in conversation with each other. It's like easygoing in a way that like I don't know why video games are like this, and I guess maybe it's just literally that like they're tech products, right? And so they have to work on this kind of like scale, and like the fidelity is so different, and like even the mechanism of play is really different. Like if you're playing with like a DualSense, you know, on a PS5, like that kinesthetically is a super different thing than playing with like a DualShock 2, right?
Yeah.
And like that, I don't know, but I just I want us to have more of the other thing, and I think I would feel less weird about video game remakes if they felt more like people taking a stab at the same idea or the same script or a similar story or whatever, right? Rather than them being like, you know, 2.0s, like version replacements. And like this, I think this game just sits at a really uneasy and strange mix between those two things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, it's a Konami official product. It can't go off the rails. And I think also Bloober Team would not want it to, right? They wanted to make something that was still Silent Hill 2, right? But then what does that mean? You know, because to me, they failed at doing that, right? But
yeah, it is. I kind of want to pivot to talking about camera positioning, camera placement. Like, so we've already mentioned this game is behind the back, like,
yeah,
and like, that's what I expected. So, you know, I don't really feel a type of way about it. What I do feel a type of way about is adapting the cutscenes from the original game and just holistically across the board doing it so much worse.
Yeah, it is kind of shocking how much worse it is. And like even when there's a few shots that get like directly recreated, I don't feel they hit the same way.
Yeah, there's that scene at the beginning where it zooms out, the iconic scene where like it zooms out and you see the shot of Silent Hill, you see James's car.
Yeah.
And the way they do that shot in this game is like it goes from a behind the back perspective of James out to the wide shot in one continuous camera motion, which is absurd. There definitely feels like
and then it cuts to him like a close up, like sitting in front of the thing. There's so many fucking close ups in this game, and we'll talk about it. Sorry, I want you to finish your thought.
Yeah, there are points in the game where I feel like they were angling towards doing the video game behind the back thing, and then they just didn't fully commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this especially with that beginning scene, and especially with the videotape scene, which we'll get to. Which they don't fully commit on where we want to focus the camera on the protagonist. Like it feels like, and it in fact like a number of scenes, like were changed to make it more like the original. And this is actually literally true in that in the like 1.0 version of the game that was on disc, that scene where like James and Angela talk in the cemetery was changed. There's less, if you can believe it, there's less close-ups in the final version. And then in the original it was more shot reverse shot. Sorry. That's what I mean. It was more shot reverse shot on the like disc, and then with the update it was more camera angles to make it more like
and I definitely have the updated version because I have the like I think it's like the greatest hits one that has Born from a Wish on it, so yeah.
Oh, I just mean in terms of the remake.
Oh, in the remake,
yeah. So they definitely like it's documented that they've made some changes. So
that's really weird.
I just wonder what, like before that initial reveal trailer, and like some of the backlash that came from that, how much they changed to make it suit the original
really
game a little bit more.
Because you do have, there's so many shots in original Silent Hill 2 where there's like it'll be like a flat and then it'll like tilt like sideways, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that I think those shots and like a lot of the stuff in Silent Hill 2, particularly like the scene in the graveyard that you're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of scenes with James and Angela like this where the camera's really emphasizing the physical space between characters and the difference in size between them. Like that there's like James is like, you know, he's sort of soft-spoken and robotic, but he's like a kind of big, like he's not muscular necessarily, but he's like tall, right? And he's like a man, and everyone else in the game is either a woman or like a child, right? Like Eddie's, you know, pretty young, right? And so like the way that the camera situates him, I think this is one of the ways that you first feel uneasy about him, right? Is that the camera doesn't treat him as a protagonist, it treats him as like a, you know, he is a little bit threatening, and then is also like swallowed up in Silent Hill, right? And there's all these like that scene at the very beginning of the game where you're like just walking through the fog and you just are hearing things is so scary. And there's such an like this is the stuff where the behind the back camera like does worsen things for me in a real way, even though like playing 2 again, it is like there's not that many fixed cameras. It's mostly direct following James, right, in some way. But
or oftentimes you can start with a fixed angle and then like change the camera to be behind James.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that's something that's like really important to the game, is that emphasis on kind of like, it's a game, Silent Hill 2 is blocking in it is basically what I'm saying, right? Yes. Like it is thinking about that stuff. And then the introduction of, because it's not as if the original game has no close-ups, right? But it doesn't really have a bunch of super close ones. And I think the intention here is that, okay, we have, I don't know if they use like motion or facial capture for this, but we have like high ability to render faces very realistically, right? And in an in-depth way. And we can just do that. And like that will, like our ability to do that means that will make the story more grounded and more emotional if we have like more close-ups. And I don't think that this is the way that a filmmaker would think about this kind of thing.
No.
Which is maybe, like there is some, it's all a piece together. And I don't think that like doing a shot where you're emphasizing an actor's body language is not distracting from the performance,
Right.
And so I think the videotape scene is especially egregious in this, I think, but I think it's a consistent thing that shows up throughout, the game.
Yeah, and I just think there's not enough. There's so many shots in this game where they just don't just keep the camera still.
Yeah.
Please. The first like one that made me want to pull my hair out is the scene where Laura traps James in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And James opens the door to the room, and then it cuts to a close up of him, like a full on. He's opening the door, and it cuts to a close up of him opening the door.
Right.
And I'm like, why is that there?
Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
What are you doing? It adds nothing. It is a 1 second shot, and it's like you don't just put the camera somewhere, dog. I just hate it.
Yeah.
And it especially like Silent Hill, like truly in my mind, I have the same reverence for it as I would like Twin Peaks,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is like the pacing and the direction and the camera placement, like all of that, like obviously very clearly taken from Lynch and other directors, Kubrick, like so like clearly drawing on that stuff.
There's a shot from Jacob's Ladder in the two. Like when he gets like knocked out in the hospital and then he's like on the gurney and looking at the ceiling. Yeah. Like that's a shot from Jacob's Ladder.
So like they were taking from all these things that I also happen to like. And just this remake just doesn't, it is just generic video game cutscene direction.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is.
And you feel it, especially, you feel it in the camera angles. You feel it in the dialogue. People who say that the stiltedness of the original game is bad and a product of the time are just wrong. They're just incorrect.
Yeah. I think
there's an intentionality to the dialogue in 2 that I think is like intentionally weird and off-putting, and there are moments, especially towards the end of the game, where the voice acting just fucking hits.
Yeah.
And it's emotional, and there's none of that here.
Well, I think the way that like that there is this slow that Mary is the only character who has a naturalistic performance in the game.
Yeah.
And Angela kind of in a couple moments, right?
Yeah.
I think that I mean, both that scene in the hallway and the one, and obviously the reading the letter at the end of the game, are so affecting because it is like, it's also like James was not a robot. There was a time where he was something else, and he has like become this thing, this like other person, right? And that like, I don't know, there's just this, I think that contrast in the way that the game like builds to that more gradually, and that even that James's performance becomes like more subdued and measured like over time to some degree. I think really like it has such an effective arc, and I like get like literally I was showing Emma a couple scenes from Silent Hill 2, and she was like, well, the guy who plays James is really bad. And I disagree, but like I understand how that happens, you know? Mm-hmm. But I think it is like, it's such a like, you trust the process, and then, you know, it is hard not to. I was sobbing replaying it and listening to the final letter. It is like one of the most affecting bits of video game voice acting, period. Maybe the most, right? And I think it's I mean, it's just like you're saying, it's a composite of all these things, right? That leads you to that. And there is a deliberateness that the game like ends on this note of like, drama and like sincerity, right? Mm-hmm. When it first, like the very first cutscene in the game is two people who are like going through kind of a similar pain in some ways, but cannot talk to each other about it, right? Mm-hmm. And that span is like, that's the thing. That's what makes it moving, right? Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, I don't think the performance in this... I guess I don't love Mary's performance.
I think Mary is the worst.
Yeah.
Just like that is like an objective fact to me. Her lines like are just so delivered so deadpan and just don't come across.
Well, I think there's an intention there,
or emotional. I don't know.
Yeah, to subdue it, but I think that's such a mistake in that. Like, I understand why you do that with James, and I think like his performance is pretty capable. You know, like it doesn't quite read the same way to me, but I don't think that's necessarily bad, right? But yeah, no, I just agree.
Let's talk about performances for a second, because Mary I didn't care for. I do like the James in this game. Yeah. There's something about like the he's way more like a aw shucks kind of like dude, where like he puts on a front of like, you know, he's super chill, like no problem, like, you know, this is totally fine. You know, didn't mean to startle you, Angela. And then the moment that something sets him off, like Laura saying that she was friends with Mary a year ago or whatever, and that mask just immediately slips off. I thought was really good in this.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I mean, I think it's part of it, it's just such a different performance style. I think the thing it does kind of lose is I love in the mirror scene with Angela, the way the original VO reads, there's always another way. Yeah. That it's just like a script for him. Like it's not I don't want to say like he doesn't care, but he's not engaged. You know what I mean, with this person. And I think it's not really there in the same way. Like James generally reads as like weary, but like a little bit more sincere, which I think is not a bad read on the character, honestly, but is different, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm pulling at several different threads, and I'm trying to at least make this podcast somewhat organized.
We're really in it to some degree.
Because if I bring up Angela, I feel like Angela should just be a separate section of this podcast.
Well, and that's also maybe a way we can sort of lead into some of the like ending stuff that we have issues with.
James I mostly like. Eddie I mentioned I like the stuff they did with him. Laura I can kind of take or leave.
I think I feel the same way. I think there's some stuff again that in the cinematography that lands a little. I love that shot. I mean, and then you recreate it, I think, in Remake, where he's sitting in the chair and she's like hitting him. I think they cut to a close up there, which I don't think you need to do. Like I don't know. it's good that he's like in shadow and she's partially illuminated by the window, right? And that there's like, yeah, I don't know, this like rage against what happened. I think that stuff is very nice. Yeah, it just doesn't. I think I don't know if it's really a performance thing with her. It's just so much that like some of the scenes around her change and the feeling of them change, and so it doesn't quite work the same way.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it. Just thought it was fine. Yeah, Maria also is pretty much the same.
I think I
think it's very funny that the gamers are talking about how they toned down Maria because of woke, which is like literally not true. The furthest thing from true.
Also, I mean, I don't know. She's like, she has more cleavage this time around. Like, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I don't know. I'm not trying to be weird. I'm not trying to do this thing, but I'm just like, I don't think the outfit is like a less sexy or whatever. Like, I don't think that's
the video
true.
that I watch. I watch a lot of garbage YouTube because I work a desk job. And the video I watched specifically was like, the game taunts you with the original outfit. I'm bro, what is your problem?
I don't. Well, people said this about like Dante and DMC. Remember? Well, I mean, it does do that. Actually, it is taunting you in that case. Not a good comparison. But maybe not a big deal is all I'm saying. You know, maybe not a problem. No, I think it's weird. Well, I think it's also weird that like I'm not saying that Silent Hill 2 doesn't. Like, there are ways to talk about this. I don't even necessarily describe it as, like, a feminist video game, like, as such. And not that that's, like, necessarily important. But, like, it is, like, James is a violent misogynist, and that is what the game is about. Like, in a really direct way, right? That, like, part of the thing in his relationship with Mary is that he, when she wasn't fun to be around anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That's when he begins to think about killing her, right? And it's complicated, and there's sort of different emotional tenors to it, right? And that's part of what makes it such a lasting game, is that it feels legitimately complex, but like it that is part of what is happening. And I know that like these people cannot understand themes. You know, I understand that, but it is just so weird to go after the game and be like, wow, like, you know,
especially like this game, like,
yeah,
like, what?
I don't know.
It's just funny to me. I didn't mean to like derail it.
No, you're fine. Well, I also think it's like,
yeah.
I think the thing it does is the outfit's like less tacky, you know? Which I also think is kind of a weird change. Like, I like the sensation that, you know, I guess I don't know actually if this is true. She just reads like, I don't think this is true, actually. I was about to say she reads as older to me in the original, and I don't think that's quite right. But I do think there is, like, a sense of, like, her being, like, a little washed up, and that's, like, part of the appeal of her, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I don't mean to do this fucking thing. I don't want to be like, oh, this woman is dressed the wrong way. Like, I think it's like, this is such a change that just does not matter to me at all. That I do not think is like substantive to the substance of the game in any way. And like, yeah, like I kind of wish she was wearing like cheetah print because it's tacky and like fun, but I don't think that's like a problem. And I guess it still is. It's like embossed and metallic though, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, yeah.
I don't care either way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think that's also, I think it wants to create a sensation a little bit also of being out of time. It's still a videotape, but it doesn't really look old. You know, it doesn't look like the early 2000s, right?
Oh man, that is a whole other conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
When we talk about that scene.
You know, so I think that's part of the reason you update the outfit is just to give it that sensation of being like, oh, because that outfit is so like late 90s, right? Mm-hmm. And early 2000s, like it's very like, I don't know, Disney Channel Cheetah Girl kind of thing. And like that is, you know, changing that, it makes sense. I understand why you do that.
I don't. Her performance is not as good as the original. I like the original
Yeah.
a lot more.
I mean,
but it's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think that scene in the basement where she screams at him is so much less effective.
What do you mean anyway?
Yeah, it's
so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
it just
the
hits
way,
so much harder in the original.
Yeah. I think the way that she really does, like, yeah, she feels like this weird person, even though she is like this creation and like is killed over and over again and is like a symbol that like she's still scared and she's like this thing that exists beyond him, you know. Like that stuff is really interesting. And I that is still there, obviously, because it's like the plot of the game, right? Although it's a little, it does more explicitly make the like Mary figure at the end Maria in a way that I don't think she is in the original game. Like it's a little bit more, this could be a third entity of some kind or like an additional thing, you know? At least in my mind, I don't know if that's, you know, people may disagree. But yeah, it just doesn't hit as hard for me.
Yeah, I think I disagree with that reading, but the beautiful thing about 2 is that there's ambiguities to it.
Yes, yeah.
And the thing I've learned about Silent Hill 2 in the YouTube videos that I've watched since I finished a remake is that Silent Hill 2 has its own Mark Frost, and it's fucking Masahiro Ito, because he will talk about Silent Hill 2 all fucking day, apparently.
Oh, really? Okay.
There are a bunch of Silent Hill 2 trivia videos, and almost every single one is like, according to creature designer Masahiro Ito, Mary is in the back of the seat in the car. I'm like, shut up! Stop talking!
Oh, that's so funny. You know, what are you gonna do? What was it? What was the thing where, like, because isn't this the guy who's on Twitter a lot too? You know?
Yeah.
And just like people asking him like interpretive questions and being like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Well, sometimes he gives actual answers and it sucks. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
I wish that tweet where he said, I fucking hate that I made Pyramid Head was
I mean, it is like, it is such a, yeah.
Which there is definitely less emphasis on Pyramid Head being a manifestation of James in that there's like less, the sexual assault stuff is downplayed so much.
Way toned down, yeah. Or not way, but it is toned down, yeah.
I was very surprised that they made that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of unfortunate. Honestly, I was kind of worried that they would change I don't know. I think the Angela creature is good, and I'm glad that they kept that. Yeah. At least as like, you know, like it is just a fucked up image, right? But I think that's like important to it. But yeah, no, that initial scene in the apartment building with like, because you get that flash of it and it's more muted in the apartment, right? And then you get another one when you like go into the boss arena with him, and that it's just not there anymore. They just take it out. Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of the thing that I don't think this is something that really suffuses the rest of the game so much.
No.
But I do think that one of the things Silent Hill 2 is about is this, like, because part of it, James comes to Silent Hill to some degree because he still can't believe that he actually did this thing, and it feels unreal to him. And the process of the game is like him accepting, for better or for worse, for his own safety, I guess, that this actually happened, right? And I think it's a little bit weird to tone down some of that stuff in that light. Like, it feels like it's a game about looking at something awful and like actually sort of fully considering it you know.
Right.
And I don't think this is an added, again, I don't think this like hits in every way across the whole game, but like I do think that is kind of like, to me it's an unfortunate change. I think Silent Hill 2 like is grimy for a reason, and I don't think that toning that down actually like makes it more sensitive. It might actually be the opposite. But yeah, I don't think it's really a problem outside of that one choice, I think, is like the principal thing I would say that with.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Yeah. I think it is. I mean, so much of that one scene is the fact that it's just like a visual reference to Blue Velvet. That
right.
I'm like, that like you remove the assault aspect of it, and now you just, the purpose of the scene is different.
Yeah.
Or like the thing that the scene was referencing, or like drawing from, is like completely different now.
Right, totally.
Which is obviously true of everything else that they changed. That example was just particularly interesting to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it is like, this is a game, you know, I mean, Silent Hill 2 has the like, this game contains like disturbing content or whatever, like the like one flash at the beginning, or is that only 1 and 3 that have it?
I think it's in 2.
Yeah. So like both games have content warnings, but like this one names all of the things, you know, and has all of the things listed and is like, here's a QR code for mental health resources.
Here's the URL.
Yeah. You know, and I think that is like, and I don't mean to say that like, oh, the game shouldn't have a trigger warning. Like, I don't mean that, but just like, it is a different approach to this material. Right.
Yeah. I think it's like objectively it is better to give people heads up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But if you're giving people heads up, then like play in the space, you know. I don't know. Yeah,
I do agree with that. I also think that I think this is kind of the tricky thing, because I was thinking about this with like,
which I don't mean to harp on, like I don't mean to harp on it like, oh, they took out I'm so mad they took out this. It was a notable change.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Well, I think it changes what those scenes mean in like a really direct way. The thing I was going to say also is that like, I do think that in theory we have a built-in like content warning thing, and that's like the ESRB rating. But I think in practice, like you don't have like, oh, like alcoholism, like here's a thematic thing that you might want to watch out for. That might be triggering, right? Like the ESRB thing for Silent Hill 2 probably says like, you know, violence, gore, disturbing images or whatever, right? It doesn't say like sexual assault, alcoholism, you know, abuse, terminal illness, right? You know, and maybe that's like, I think it might be worth thinking about making that shift on more neutral ground instead of like having to rely on individual games like doing it themselves, right? But I don't know.
Blood and gore, language, sexual themes, and violence.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's all true. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other stuff we want to talk about before we talk about Angela and then talk about the end of the game.
Okay, I'll list some things that I like that we haven't mentioned.
Okay.
I like that James pulls out the map and scribbles on it. I think that's cute.
That's cute. Yeah.
I chuckled at it every time you like found a new map and then James marked his map. I just think that's just a fun thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think that's really funny. He's got a pen and everything.
Yeah, literally. And he's got the folder that he keeps all of them in. You know?
It's so funny. And he also writes like if there's like a puzzle, like a number, he'll write it down and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is like, those are quality of life things that I think are fine.
Yeah,
you know,
it's fine.
Yeah.
I just like that they animated it. It's so funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I really like this game adds a mechanic. I guess two things. what I like one of them considerably less. The one I like less is like the breaking of the windows. Like you can break every like window, which is like neat, but like it's fine. It does mean that you can break every TV in the game, which is very funny to me.
Sure, yeah.
But the thing I really like is breaking walls every time. So like this game has like it does a lot of AAA video game exploration things.
Yes,
where, like,
it does. You gotta wheel around the fucking the thing so you can climb up the thing up top or whatever.
It's like if you watch out for white curtains, it'll point you
show
the
you
direction.
the way. Yeah.
But one of these things is like a moldy wall that you can break. And every fucking time, it just hits something in my brain that I'm just like, yeah, fucking break that wall. It felt so good, and I don't know what it is. I think it's like the sound design is like really crunchy on it, and it's like it always takes like 3 hits for the wall to come down. I just thought that felt so satisfying.
Yeah, the thing I think is a little... I mean, I think this is like kind of a general level design thing, is that the game is like significantly more linear. And I never get lost, but it's like a lot of Silent Hill 2 is like you get to a location and you have to check every door because you don't know what doors are open. There's no direction in terms of like where you are supposed to go in the building, and you just have to figure out like what is available to you. And then like figure out from there.
Did you immediately, like me, get the achievement for checking a bunch of doors?
Yes!
I got it like the first
dungeon.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, uh-huh.
I'm like, yeah, that's how you play the fucking game.
Right, yeah. And so I think like the way that the game, it greatly reduces the feeling of being lost and confused as like a default mode of interaction. Like I love that you go to the apartment building in Silent Hill 2 because it's like the only place that isn't blocked off. Right? Like you have to like run around and go all this stuff. And it's weird because it's actually like way more belabored in Remake, this stuff.
With the record player and everything.
Yeah, with the record player and doing all that stuff, right? And which is like they basically add like a bunch of tutorial puzzle stuff that isn't in the original game, partially because the original game is just simpler and you don't need it, right? Yeah. In the same way. The other thing, I don't mind the wall breaks. I mean, as far as they're just another one of these little AAA-isms, but I do hate it when you fall down the well is it in the prison, or I don't remember exactly where, but then you have to like, in the original game, you have to like click through all the walls and like find the spot that's open, and it's like, at first you're like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do? And so then eventually you start like running around, like hitting buttons, and then you get something right from that. And that, like, when you land in the well and there's just like, oh, yep, there's the wall break thing that I break down the wall with, right? I think the way that the game kind of takes out...
I disagree with this only because I didn't notice that it had the wall break thing. And so that was the best moment for me where I was like, I get to do this 3 times? Let's go. But then I got less excited when I realized that there was only one path forward. That part is bad.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, I just think that I was really so astonished by that stretch. It's such a cool, and just like, I don't know, it's just so hellish and sort of illogical and strange. And like, there's stuff like that in Remake to some degree, but I think like the quality is maybe a little variable, but like in terms of the feeling of mechanically interacting with every area is pretty similar. I will say also that I do think the thing the game largely gets right is maybe not the right word, but that feels like all the puzzles feel like they could be in Silent Hill 2.
Yes, this is a game that understands that like it's a psychological horror game, but you must complete my puzzles first.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, my riddles 3.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think it like that stuff. I mean, obviously, a lot of them are like based on or essentially riffs on puzzles from the original game, right? They're not fully original to this. I mean, some of them are, but not all. But I think even the ones that aren't like kind of hit the affect of it, right? There's sort of a vibe. Like that was one of the things that I really felt like, oh, aesthetically, like this is very similar. I didn't feel like, oh, this feels incongruent, you know, or this changes the meaning of the thing in some profound way. I do also think, though, that every bit of new writing, like any pickup you get that was not written by Team Silent but was written by Bloober Team, they're all bad. None of them are good. All of them are bad. They're all terrible. I also think it's like a huge mistake to like have little like narratives about like what's going on at the hospital, what's going on at the prison. Like they're hellscapes. Nothing is going on. There's not a thing that happened. You know, I mean, there kind of is, but there kind of isn't, right? I would much prefer the way the original plays with that ambiguity rather than like getting environmental storytelling tidbits, you know.
It was so funny. Yeah, there's so much stuff in the hospital. Which like basically like the gameplay in the hospital is my favorite, but the pickups are bad. Almost across the board. Which I think is very funny. But then I was also shocked. I was, well, not shocked, but like it was very funny to me to realize that like that one passage about, you know, the patient is happy in their like delusional world. Why are we trying to bring them back to our world? That's like just from the original game.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. Blooper Team didn't even write that one. That's why it's good.
Yeah. Well, I think, because there are a few, like there's the suicide note on the rooftop that I think you kind of have to look at maybe in this. Maybe you don't. But that's really affecting still. You know, there are definitely some that just still hit. It's cool when it says there's a hole there. There was a hole there, now there isn't, or whatever it says. It's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty classic.
It's pretty classic.
So this, I like that it's in the game, whether or not it should be in a game called Silent Hill 2. You know, the Dead Space stomp.
Yes.
It's just so funny.
It is funny. Yeah.
You know what? Like, if you're gonna redo the combat, sure, fuck it.
Yeah. Did you get the achievement for killing like 45 enemies with the Dead Space stomp?
I don't think I did.
I didn't either. It's kind of hard because you can't really delineate between swinging with your melee weapon.
Yeah.
And I think it's also something that I'm not saying the combat in Silent Hill 2 is good exactly, but like I do think that there's kind of a clumsiness and an awkwardness to it. Like you can kind of John Wick people in this in a way that you cannot in the original game, right? Like the combination of the tank controls, the fact that you have to like go into the menu to heal or to switch weapons, right? Rather than like pressing a button to do it. Like all that stuff makes it feel like clumsier. It feels like you're, even though it doesn't really work that way mechanically, it feels like you're rummaging around in your bag while something's like creeping up on you, you know? Yeah. And then you have to like having to unpause and see, you know, I think that stuff just like, it's not really tense or scary. And it's certainly not like combat is not the principal way that Silent Hill 2 like builds horror. It just is not, right? But it has an atmospheric quality to it that I think is really valuable. That I do think this kind of loses because of that. It feels a little bit more like, oh yes, like here is the combat from Dead Space or Resident Evil.
It feels like RE7 to me.
Yeah, sure. Which I haven't played, so
like the shooting feels, and just the fact that you like open doors by like just walking into them.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's also an RE7 thing.
There was
the one thing that I did like about the controls is like that recoil after you shoot somebody. So it's like a little harder to just like line up a bunch of shots consecutively.
You
do eventually just get used to that and
it
can
is
easily do it.
like this is the thing is it's actually like really well crafted. Like it is well done. And I also think that the thing is I think it just kind of like in some like I was thinking a little bit about Alan Wake 2 playing this. Not just because like the DLC came out, but just like because they played really similarly. The thing with Alan Wake 2 is that the kind of generic survival horror stuff is backdrop to what the game is actually interested in doing. Like it's way more about puzzles, it's way more about like narrative design than it is about like combat encounters, right? Mm-hmm. And it's mostly like the like third person action game stuff is something that supplements those things and like provides context for them. Whereas like Silent Hill 2 like imports all that stuff from the original game, and so the big idea it has is like, what if we did this? You know? And I think that just it feels so much poorer for it, right? In some ways, I think through that. But like I am not immune. I was playing it and like enjoying myself, at least for like the first half.
Right. Yeah, and I think just
even if I was like frowning the whole time and like squinting my eyes at the screen, being like, I don't approve, turning to no one and being like, I don't approve of this. I don't approve of these chest high walls.
I think like for me, this was such a good exercise, and like I can like the thing, I can appreciate it in different ways, and that's fine. Yeah, I don't have to like go hater mode immediately.
Right, totally, yeah.
The game will let me do that on its own volition.
Well, I think that is the thing about truest hate is born from experience and genuine curiosity. And I do think that was something that was hard, and I think actually did make it a little bit harder on myself, like replaying the original simultaneously. It was harder to take this on its own terms. And I think it gave me some insights that I'm glad. Like I'm not unhappy that I did it, but and it is well, and I don't part of it is like did like the letter, for example, like hit way less hard because I had just played that? I don't think so.
No.
But
I will tell you no.
All right. Well, should we talk about Angela and then mosey over to the ending stuff?
A couple more things real quick.
Oh yeah, please.
Music is mostly good except for a few scenes, which we're about to talk about. Also, I think too, this is one thing, because you played this game on Discord a little bit.
Yes, I did.
With Soph, and I think the thing that underlines like it's so hard to explain to normal people the things that we feel about this game.
Yeah.
You had such a visceral reaction to cutting to a close-up of James in that first cutscene.
Yeah.
And Soph just goes, "This is fine."
Yes. Yeah.
It's like you can't explain to somebody normal. What? Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. There are things that Soph would understand. Like I don't know what it would be. Well, I think okay, actually I'll have to clip this and send this to them, because I think something that we've talked about is that they problematically kind of prefer the like original Taylor Swift recordings of like her prior albums, because she part of it is she has a twang still.
Sure.
And that kind of thing. I think that's like a similar, it's not quite the same because obviously it's like the same person, and obviously she's like, I'm not trying to give it up for Taylor Swift, but I mean, it is like legitimately fucked up that somebody else owns all those recordings, right?
Right.
And so trying to like make up for that and do stuff like, it's a big money scheme, but also it's like, yeah, good for her, anyway. So if that's what it's like the Taylor Swift Chang being gone. That's what the equivalent is. Yeah. So how do you feel about Angela's performance, generally speaking?
So I thought the performance was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me, the stuff with Angela is mainly all of the formal decisions that the game decided to make with her that pissed me off. Like that, the knife scene, her close up waving the knife around is so fucking stupid.
I also hate that shot of like her reflection in the knife. Like, I just feel like that's like the corniest, most obvious thing to do. And I know that you have the technology now, but it's like, ugh. Yeah.
It also is a mute point because the mirror is right fucking there.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's like in the original game, like she is contemplating. And like you don't get that sense here. She's waving the knife around like it's a fucking I don't know, like a fucking.
Yeah, well, I think that's also the thing. Yeah, the thing that this was like kind of what I was talking about earlier about like physical relationships, is that scene in the original, you get kind of a wider shot of James approaching Angela to take the knife from her, and then she gets scared, right, and freaks out.
Yes,
and
exactly. Yes,
it reads a little bit like more like, you know, because it's closer, it feels more intimate. It feels like more like James is like, hey, I'm trying to reach out to you, which like he is trying to do, to be fairness, in both versions. But like in the original game, it way more clearly, like you can visually read why it triggers her, right? Yes. That it's like a man who's like much larger than her, like approaching her, you know, in this way, like she immediately has this intense reaction, right? And like that there's a physicality to that scene that you lose in like having the emphasis be on close-ups and like on her crying and being emotional, right?
And it feels that the end of that scene especially, it feels so much like she just went crazy because she's mentally ill and she ran out of the room. Whereas like in the original game, like it is very clear James reaching for the knife is the thing that sets her off. No, I'm glad you called that out, because that I didn't really know how to kind of communicate that aspect of that cutscene. So I'm glad you brought that up for sure.
No, I think it's I think that's, and I think there's just like a few I don't know, the staircase scene, I mean, it's tough because that is just, I don't know. I don't want to be like, the thing that's so weird is that like, I know I'm being really hyperbolic about Silent Hill 2 on some level, but like, I want to emphasize that I played this 2 years ago. Right? Like, I don't have like a long history with it. I didn't play it as a kid or as a teenager. It's not like logged into my psyche in some deep way. It's not associated with like nostalgia or really even like a prior time of my life, right? It's just that good to me. I think it's just good, you know? And so, but I just think that that scene is so powerful, and it just doesn't hit the same way. And I do think I love the final shot of James that actually is kind of a behind the back shot, and you see her like fading into the smoke, right? And the fact that it becomes this like longer shot where you twist around and then James leaves, like you don't get that moment where you're sitting with James in the burning room, like watching her continue to step up the stairs and fade into smoke, right? Like that's just such an important little detail to me. And that adds to giving you space to breathe in that moment, in that room. And with like the heat of it, you know, the literal thing, like it's always like this for me. Having to sit in that for a second and not being spat out and then being like, oh, here's the stairs that I take up to the next part of the video game. You know? It's just like, I don't know.
Do they cut to James in this one?
There's more shot. I think the shot of like her coming down and, you know, being like, oh, your mama and stuff, and like holding his shoulders and stuff. That's more or less the same. It does have wide shots. It is a little differently framed though, I think. If I'm remembering correctly.
I have to reference back, because like the thing that's notable about the staircase scene in the original game for me, and this, why it's important for me to verify this, is because In the original game, yeah, it is shot reverse shot. In the original game, they animate James reacting to Angela, like what Angela is saying,
Right.
and they don't cut to him. That is like a deliberate choice. The fact that they animated it and said, no, it's better if we focus on Angela on this.
Yeah.
Like, is such a deliberate thing.
That's also like part of like film acting. Is that, you know, and it's obviously different when it's like actual people in a room, and like part of it is you have this thing, you have to act with each other and not just act for the camera, right?
Yeah.
So it's like different, but I think that like, yeah, it makes a difference that he's, yeah. No, I think that's also something that like you get those in the boss fight with Daddy, Abstract Daddy.
Yeah.
Abstract Daddy?
Yes.
You get those like TVs that have the dad like speaking or like fragments of his words. And I think that I don't think that's like a fatal mistake, but I do think it's notable that he does not get a voice. Like it is Angela alone who speaks, right? And like the thing that is left, the thing that remains from like what happened to Angela is this like horrible monster that represents like the violence that he did to her. And that is it. Right? That feels pointed to me, you know? Right. And also part of it is that some of this is reflecting on James, right? And it wants you to think about that. It doesn't want you to think about it as being separate from him. Right? And that's why you don't introduce like another sort of presence in that besides, you know.
Sorry, you saying that I've so much to say about that scene. One thing one more thing about the staircase scene I do want to mention.
Yes.
I'm sending you a picture. They made
what the fuck?
They made the fire less vibrant in the final game. It was originally more vibrant, like in the original game, and they fucking changed it.
That's so odd.
Which is so stupid. Such a bad choice. It's supposed to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Like it is a consuming flame. I don't understand why they changed that.
That's so I'm looking at this image is legitimately disturbing to me. Like that's so odd, yeah.
I'll link it in the description because it's wild. That they just
also is her hair different too?
It might be a slightly different character model.
Yeah.
They did make a ton of changes, especially with in comparison to the original trailer.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, you want to talk about the boss fight?
I just think we need to PT a fantastic game. We need to do away with this random hallway shit. It's so stupid. You don't need it in this.
Well, I think that's one of the things is that I just think about, I think this is like that thing of expansion where it's like Silent Hill 2 did all this in one room.
Yeah.
Literally just one room. And you know, and it becomes like a 15-20 minute set piece that is like multiple hallways and like a whole thing.
Hallways, and you see inside the house where Angela grew up in.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. Which is like fine.
Yeah.
But like the moment to moment, I need to go hit 3 televisions. Like I'm doing the opening of Fire Walk with Me 3 times.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Well, I think that's, I think that's something that is kind of striking about, I mean, I already talked about this, but the original doesn't have a lot of those kinds of repetitions, and this game is full of them. Yeah. You know? It just does, it feels more video gamey, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it does, for sure. Yeah, I did not care for that at all. I think adding groans to the piston room is unnecessary. Yeah,
I would agree. I think, yeah. I also think that there's, I just like I think also the geography of it, the simple geography of the original scene, like, gives it, you know, like you're in the room with the TV and then Angela like picks it up and smashes it, you know, on any stuff. Like there's sort of there's blocking in a way. And this is like simple, but it's like kind of disorienting in a way that doesn't feel intentional when you like defeat the boss and the thing kind of resets, you know?
Yeah.
I also, they change it so that, because in Silent Hill 2, like, there are a couple daddy enemies in the hotel. And they're not, they like have the guys below the ground that are like I don't know, they have the big mouths on their arms or whatever.
Really? I did not realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think I understand the change conceptually is that like, oh, these are, you know, manifestations of like Angela's trauma. Like, why are they in the hotel? Like, what's going on? I do kind of, to me, that in the original game, like, it kind of implies that maybe it's reaching further than that one section, or that there's like other things in the hotel that resemble this, or even that there's like things about James that are unresolved that are related to this, right? Like, I think it's, I don't know, and maybe it is just like, oh, we need a big enemy, let's put that here.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's like thoughtless, you know. But
yeah, I feel like if I were tasked to remake this game, I would also change that.
Yeah,
so I can't get mad at that.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. Well, I do kind of like don't like that they pull those guys from like under the grates, because I love the thing in that where you get the sensation that there's like a whole other world like below Silent Hill that you like can't access. And so the way that like kind of crawls up and like reaches in and becomes like part of this section like feels like, I like that the way that they don't even feel like enemies. You just sort of run by them, you know, and they don't appear that much in the game. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's really lovely. And it, you know, it's not like a horrible reconfiguration, but it does change the feeling of that a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. The Angela change that perhaps pissed me off the most is her saying that James didn't love Mary. What the fuck? Did stupid. Stop it. You already have Laura for this. Like, why do they give Angela lines for that?
Yeah, well, what's the... Because there is something in the... I'm looking up... I'm going to SilentHillMemories.net. And I'm scrolling to the script. The game script, which is just in here. Which has everything except the text of the letter, which is very funny to me.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, wait, hold on. This is like in the staircase. Hotel or in the letter. Finally with Angela. Or... Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry that I'm getting... Because there is something...
You are fine. It is, I'm finding the remake version of it right now.
Okay, yeah.
This video doesn't have subtitles.
It's not as extensive, because, she just says, you said your wife Mary was dead, right? James, yes, she was ill. Angela, liar, I know about you. You didn't want her around anymore. You probably found someone else. I think this moment...
does she say that?
Yeah. And then James is like, that's ridiculous. I never... Although she doesn't say that, like, oh, you didn't love her. I don't know what the exact delivery of it is.
So maybe this is... Okay. So maybe this is just me not remembering the original game then.
Yeah, because there were a couple like that. Right. I got really bad about the alcoholism thing where like Maria pours a glass of scotch in front of James and there's this awful shot of him like looking down on it, being like, whoa. But actually there is like a thing in the original game where if you like click on the bottles in the bar, then he like talks about being an alcoholic basically.
Yeah.
But I think that like the difference between those two things is like having a big obvious shot about it and having it be like a missable thing, right? Yeah. I think that really changes the tenor of like how that reads and how it affects how you think about the story, right? It being like one note of interpretation that is missable versus like a thing that is lingered on and shown and like deliberately like delineated and like crossed, you know?
I feel this way about the letter actually. So like in the original game, when you get to the hotel, like there's nothing written on the letter.
Yeah.
And that's also true of this game. But the way it's conveyed is like completely different because it's like
right
in the original game, you're like looking at a menu and it says there's nothing on the letter or whatever. And then this, like you're holding up the letter, you see it with your own two eyes and there's nothing on it.
Yeah.
And I think the letter disappears from your inventory in the original game too at a certain point. So it's like it's doing the same thing, but it's I don't know, the way it's conveyed is just so different.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we talk about the videotape scene forward?
Yes, we should. So,
yeah, go for it. Please do your spiel.
You get to the room. You get to the room. You put the videotape in, and I don't know what kind of camcorder James has, but it's way too high fidelity. It literally looks like the developers like took video from their phone of the game screen, which is not what a videotape is.
Right. Yeah.
So there's already that. The fact that we hear and see everything makes me so mad.
I know. I love that you get, because it's also so much more fragmented.
Yes.
And you get these kind of weird, and there's also all these, again, this is the other thing, is there's all these like kind of like perhaps maybe sexual images. Like it's hard to tell what is happening, right? And then the really only indicator that you get is that, like, you know, he moves with the pillow over her face, then it cuts. Like it's super fast. It is like blink and you miss it. Right.
Yes.
And that being like this, I don't know, the way, again, that there's like this weight on like multiple sort of interpretations, there being this like more explicit like psychosexual angle that is like I forgot that this also that they changed that stuff in this too. But yeah, no, I agree. You just get way more of a view of like, oh yeah, he suffocated her with a pillow, and like that that actually in some ways like makes it less horrifying.
You hear a breathing sound effect. Like,
yeah,
come on. Again, this is like comparing it to the original game, they had constraint. There's recorded voice lines of Mary struggling in the files of the original game that they don't use. Like, because they know, like,
yeah,
it is so much better with just silence and when you can barely see anything.
Yeah.
And that ambiguity is just not here.
No.
And it sucks. They even try to do like videotape effects and it doesn't work at all.
No, it looks weird. Well, yeah, I just think it's also like, it's just, again, like that's such a startling cinematic moment, and it just renders it a lot more flatly, right?
Yeah. Anything else about the actual videotape that you want to talk about?
I mean, I think that covers it. I don't think I have an additional thing.
So, in addition to the camera work being poor in this scene after we see the videotape, the camera focuses so much on James. Like we see James in the reflection of the TV, and then it cuts,
fuck. And
then we see like a head-on like thing of James like being sad or whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
the thing that is so poignant about the original scene is that you just see him head down, and in that there is a reading that like James knew that this was the truth all along.
Yeah.
And is finally confronting that. This plays it like, oh, wow, what a shock. I killed my wife. That is so shocking to me. And it's like, that is not the story you're telling. The story you're telling is one where you're confronting the truth that is right in front of you the entire time. And it just completely ruins that.
Yeah, well, I think also that, like, because I do think, obviously, like, you can that something at least is dark or going on with James, you know? Like, you get, depending on what you see, like, you might get these messages about maybe you're going someplace else, like, different than Mary, you know? And some of the messages that you have to pick up for the story are like kind of antagonistic to James, right? And so there's definitely like evidences that something is going on. But I do think there is like the fact that the first shot you get after the videotape plays is one that you are distant from him. You know, like the camera is physically like above him. It's over him. It's like showing the way he crumples into himself and like turns into shadow. Right. Yeah. Like that there's, it doesn't play for sympathy for him. It is like kind of distancing. And then you sort of get that humanizing effect going forward, right? It's, yeah, I don't know. It's really well done. And I think that, like, again, that cut to wide, it's doing something. You don't need a close-up just because you can. You don't have to do it.
And it just lets you sit in that moment with James.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas this, you're just staring at him the whole time. And it just does not land. I was so disappointed. They don't even, not once do they do that wide shot at all. Like, that's crazy to me. That's the shot of the game for me. That's the shot of the game. Like, we use it for podcast art for a reason. Like, it's crazy. Why? That's insane to me.
Yeah.
Also, the music direction in this scene in particular is fucking terrible.
Yeah. I feel like as the game went on, the more I felt like, oh, they did kind of like Nintendo hire this man the score also.
I wouldn't say that. I mostly like.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's all bad.
I mostly like it. It is a bit like Seven Remake-y in how they like scale up some of the tracks to make it more, I don't know, you know what I mean. Like adding like orchestration bits and stuff. But this one in particular, like, is the same song, but they add live drums, which is so bad. The thing that's great about Silent Hill 2 is the use of drum samples, because you get these amazing industrial tracks that are so foreboding and creepy, and then you just get like a sick ass beat. You go to that bowling place, and one of the best songs ever happens, and you're like, damn, Akira Yamaoka's fucking got it. And they add live drums to this. Yeah. And you're hearing like drum fills and shit as you're staring at James, and I'm like, why are we doing this? Who thought this was a good idea? It just is nonsense to me. Especially when like the core of the song is that piano loop, and we still get that piano loop, but with a bunch of instruments around it, and it just sounds like a mess. Terrible.
And I think kind of the I don't know, I really love the thing when Mary reads the letter at the end where it's just the single shot, you know, and you don't have to do the text scrolling across the screen, you know. But I think it's a shame that it does all the like, here's a little tour through Silent Hill, as she reads the letter. Like, I think the sort of starkness of like one image that relates to the theme of the ending, you know, that it's like you get the repeat of the first frame of the game in the Maria ending. You get the graveyard in Leave, and then just the depths of the water in Water, you know, that all those, like, those are big thematic statements, like, that the game is lingering on. And I think having these like sort of pre-rendered, like almost like Silent Hill aesthetic shots right at the end, like it just doesn't feel like it does anything for like making you think about the text of the letter and reading it in a different way depending on the ending you got, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and as I said, the delivery of the letter is just so flat and so not impactful. Like, I was waiting for like the big, like, James, you made me happy, and it just does not hit here at all.
Yeah.
I got the In Water ending, and you're just watching the letter sink into the water in this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Leave, maybe you get like you get those Silent Hill shots, aesthetic shots.
Probably.
All right.
I was checked out by this point, so.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Listen.
Yeah. It is such a shame that they just butchered the back half of this game so much.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this?
I think we also got so many questions. So maybe
we have so many questions. There are new endings in this game. I think there's two of them. One of them is you do the In Water ending again, and Mary talks to James in the backseat of the car before he drives off.
Sure.
And then the other one is they bring back like the drug stuff from 1. And so if you like take the drugs before you play the videotape is different, and like James is like appears in the videotape and like hugs Mary and is like, yeah, everything's fine. And then it cuts to the wide shot that we were talking about
What?
The television, but James is gone. He is not in that seat.
Whatever. Okay.
So very similar to like to the Maria ending in my mind, but just different.
Yeah, when it's kind of a Rebirth ending rerun as well, which is like the New Game Plus ending where you get the little items and then you're like taking her out to the lake to, you know, turn her into a Zambo to Pet Cemetery her.
Yeah. The dog ending is slightly different, but not by much. It was going to be a lot more different. They cut a bunch from what they had originally. So like the 1.0 version had the dog turn James into like all the characters from the game, and then back into James. And then they just don't do that. They back away from that in the final game.
Right.
But that's kind of it. Oh, actually, the UFO ending is of original James coming instead of Henry.
Right. Oh, interesting. Okay, sure. Yeah. I do love that the UFO endings have their own little continuity.
Yeah,
and it's like they're all sequels to each other. It's really funny. Yeah.
But yeah, it is like you're James and I'm James with what's going on.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. It's cute.
Sure.
Emails.
Emails. All right, should I read the first one?
Sure.
This one's from Jennifer. It says, "Hi, Safe Room. While there's something naturally off-putting about the Silent Hill 2 remake for us, we have to admit that we don't always feel the same way. For remakes like Riven or Live Alive, game tastes are always subjective, but there's something about our preference in remakes that feels almost contradictory at times. Like the things that disgust us with one remake, change in camera perspective, shifts in the plot, excites us in another remake. What gets you excited or disappointed in a new remake? Alternatively, which of your favorite games would you never want to see remade in a million years? Happy Halloween."
I think there's a couple things going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is just like Silent Hill just famously has not had anything going on for it for such a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so like, I don't know, the sentiment around Silent Hill and like, I don't know, just like bringing something in and acting like it's a replacement for the original thing is like,
yeah. Well, I think it
really
also
the thing that drives me crazy.
Yeah, I think there's like also kind of a mystique to Silent Hill, which is maybe a little silly.
Sure.
But like, I think that is something that drives, like, people are like, it's so special, it can never be replicated, you know? And in some ways I do actually agree with that. Like, I do think it is like lightning in a bottle in some ways, like those 4 games, they're all so different and yet all of them are really great and really complex and powerful in a way like a lot of video games are not, right? But I do also think that like our reverence for them does kind of get in the way of us, like, you know, I feel like we're very interested in like recreating Silent Hill or making a game that's like Silent Hill 2 instead of kind of being inspired by these games in a more natural way, you know, and not like trying to be like, I want to make a game that has fixed camera angles and limited ammo and, you know, where you're in a creepy town, right? And there's psycho horror happening, right? I don't know, but yeah, so I think part of it is just that it does feel a little bit more sacred, I guess. And I don't know if that's actually fair to any of these things, you know, but like, I don't care about Dead Space as much as I care about this, you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I do not, I like a lot of Dead Space's things that it does. I like some of the things that are in the original over the remake. And it's also a little bit easier to get a hold of you know, you can buy Dead Space 1 on Steam, right? Like, you can play it. But it doesn't bug me as much when they're like, oh, they changed this cutscene. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. You know, it doesn't hit the same way. And that is just part of it is like, I like Silent Hill 2 way more than I like Dead Space.
Yeah. It also just like, by nature of the things that Silent Hill 2 is about, like any change is going to be under scrutiny.
Yes.
No matter what. And every change is going to just transform the text in such a large way.
Right.
That isn't necessarily the case with other games. For the case of Riven, you can make the case that it makes it more accessible to more people, and like Live Alive, like I know Nintendo fans like don't like playing older games for or whatever. Like that's my cynical read of that, I guess.
No, I've seen that people.
But Live Alive also is like a game that didn't have a large audience before then, and you have like stuff like Yoko Shimomura coming back and doing new stuff for it. There's like new ending stuff to it. Like I don't know, that just feels like. It feels like that those people coming back and just like bringing back an old game and introducing it to a new audience. Whereas like Silent Hill 2, like its entire existence is defined by its relationship to its fans up until this point.
Right. Yeah.
And that like we mentioned like all the patches and stuff. So like there's a relationship to the audience in that way as well, where it's like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I do think that, like, because I'm not against, like, I don't know. I'm just not on principle against someone, like, remaking things. Like, I don't think exactly. Like, I mean, I think I'm against the capitalist processes that so often incentivize that, you know? But like, I don't, there's not like a movie. Well, I guess this isn't true. I was just thinking about like, because I was like, what if they remade Alucarda? And I was like, I would not be excited for that. I would be dreading that for sure. You know? Or like, I don't know. I just do think that like, I don't know, man. It kind of depends, I guess is my answer. Right? Yeah. Like, it depends on the vibe and it depends on like who's doing it and like what the thing is and like, you know, and how it approaches like the adaptation. Because that is partially what it is. Like, even if it's in the same medium, it is an adaptational thing, right? And I guess I would like to see more remakes like take hard swings and not be replacements for the original, but be something entirely new and different, right? You know, I'm not saying the new Suspiria is good, but I would rather have a video game that is like that in relationship to like a 90s survival horror classic than like a straightforward, you know, then I don't know, whatever Silent Hill 2 remake is.
Yeah, and part of it too is like game companies are incentivized to keep their older games unplayable so they can sell it to you again. The US courts just like ruled that like emulation being illegal basically is like still going to be a thing despite stuff like the Video Game History Foundation trying to challenge that. That is still something that still remains law in the US. And as long as video game companies, especially the ESA, like actively work against making emulation accessible, remakes are just going to be the thing, regardless. Right. So
Ugh, depressing to me.
Yeah.
Because even if you like don't pirate stuff and you're into movies, it's like you can do the Criterion Channel, or you can like maybe maybe a university close to you has like some kind of film program that like is open to the public. Maybe, you know, and there are things that are hard about that, and there's definitely like restrictions. And you know, I live in Chicago, and it's like easy for me to go see older movies in the theater, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not out here trying to be like, oh, it's the same for everyone. Everyone has equal access, and like piracy or, you know, extra legal stuff plays a role in this kind of stuff too. And there's obviously like all these obscure films that you can't access any other way, right? Or that would be difficult to. But I feel like there's a lot more, like, even if you're like a normie, it's easier to kind of find this stuff. Like, you might be able to check out a DVD from your local library, and you could, you know, you can watch Casablanca that way, right? You know, so it is just different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I hope they don't get to do a Silent Hill 3 remake. I'll say that.
They probably will.
I think they will. I don't want them to. Don't touch it, please.
To hire a writer and a cutscene director, and maybe we can talk.
I don't know. It's just so... Silent Hill 3 is so important and so precious to me. And I don't want them to sully it with their dirty hands. But that feels like an easy answer. Final Fantasy X? Please don't. No. That's all.
All right, I'm going to move on to Jack's email. Since the success of Capcom's Resident Evil 2 remake, companies like Konami and EA have tripped over the graves of studios they shut down to commission horror remakes of their own. How does the remake of Silent Hill 2 stack up compared to the other recent horror remakes like Dead Space System Shock or the Resident Evil remakes? I feel like we kind of covered this, but like it plays good.
Yeah, but I think that's the principal way. It feels like, I didn't play the System Shock remake, but yeah, I was thinking a lot about the Dead Space 2 remake. I think conceptually it's very aligned. Sorry, there's a car alarm going off.
You're good.
Yeah, but I think it's very much like in this kind of... I think we're in sort of a mode of like AAA survival horror, and it's like in that it's just squarely in that zone,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can do the next email. This has a bunch of questions, which I think I'm just going to read all of because it's kind of thematic. And we can sort of just have a general conversation about it. I think that'll be the best way to approach this.
Okay.
So Quivas says, amid the recent Silent Hill talk, I've been wondering, why are there so few narrative games as accomplished as the original Silent Hill 2? Does some of its success come from its dream logic nature and how that gives its license to be gamey without compromising the storytelling? Do you think games need to embrace their artifice to tell great stories? Should more games be as metaphorical or abstract as Silent Hill 2? Should we all feel bad? Yes. I also was almost just going to be like, yes. Should we all feel bad that the game with the dog ending is one of the best to do it? Thank you. I don't think we should feel bad. I mean, it's what it is. What it is.
The dog ending is cute. Okay.
Yeah. There's like a weird thing in it, though, isn't there? Am I misremembering?
There's like Eddie stuff that's bad.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
there's also like sexy Maria, but there's also sexy James.
Yes, that's so true. That's a quality. I'm forgetting. Ed Smith at Bullet Points wrote a thing called "They should have made 100 Silent Hill 2s by now," which is, I think, it's very short, but I think is kind of a good take on these kinds of questions. And I think that, I do think that they're kind of, and I think all of the reasons to me are just sort of depressing and economic, I guess is what I would say. Like, it's not really about, are games capable of, as a medium of like doing this more often? I think, yes, plainly. I think, can, I do actually think, I don't know. I'm kind of anti like ludonarrative dissonance. I don't think that I guess I feel like if I go to a play, the fact that there are stage lights and that it's actors and that the set does not look like a real place and there are curtains surrounding it, those things do not get in the way of me being immersed in it. You know what I mean? And so I do think that I think what games have right now that I think gets in the way is a self-consciousness about those gamey stuff, which is something that Silent Hill 2 is kind of matter of fact. It does kind of have boss battles because they're supposed to be boss battles, and but I don't. It doesn't really feel like the game is not like, oh, and that reduces my ability to do something interesting or whatever. It just is yeah. So I think part of it is that a lack of pretension. Part of it's just time and space to make something and experiment, which people don't have because video development is hell. And even if you do succeed at even a moderate version of that, who's to say you won't just get fired or your studio gets shut down, right? But I do think it does. I do think some of the success does come from the dreamy nature of it. I do think that is one of its key elements.
Yeah.
And I do think that is something you can video games are uniquely suited to making space that feels abstract or strange or doesn't have logical continuity to it. Right. Obviously you can do it in a bunch of other mediums. It's not exclusive to it, but there are just things you can do in games that are really interesting. Silent Hill 2 is such a compelling example of that. And I would like more games to do more stuff with that, to play with space in a direct way, Yep. That's all I got, I think, for this.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. We're in a fucking capitalist death spiral.
Yeah.
David Lynch only got to make Twin Peaks season 3 because it was Twin Peaks, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, stuff that's experimental or abstract in this way, is just a risk that companies don't want to take.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that things don't exist in the indie space, obviously.
Right. But even that, I think like.
But these like
stuff,
big swings are just gonna not exist.
Yeah. One also, it's
games.
hard. Like indie stuff is so genre focused right now. Not all of it, right? I'm being generalizing, but like it is like, oh, like here is my indie wholesome roguelike that is, you know, Stardew Valley meets Card Captor Sakura or like whatever, right? Like it's all kind of stuff like that, and not all, but like a lot of it is. And I do think that like it is kind of difficult, like even in indie spaces, to like carve out a niche where you're like doing things. And I think because you were talking about PT, like we need to be done with the hallways, you know. I think something that's interesting about PT is like that's a Silent Hill game technically, but it feels so different, you know, from any other Silent Hill game. And I think that like I want something that as PT is to Silent Hill 2, I want that, whatever comes after those things, you know. And I don't know what that is, but I think I would like. But I think it's hard to think outside of the box, and especially like, how do you get outside investment when you're like, well, we're making something that is like influenced by all these things, but like doesn't really play like them and doesn't, you know, people are doing it. I'm not saying people aren't doing it. I think like the Sephany folks, Analogistic, I think, Marina and Melos, like I think they're doing really interesting stuff with video game genre right now, that their games simultaneously like fit really neatly into genre categories, but are also like Sephany is unlike any other 3D platform I've ever played. Like it's really weird, and in a very good way. So, you know, people are doing it, but it is like, it's just hard. It's hard to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I am a little bit optimistic in terms of like horror game stuff.
Sure.
Because it is such a like, it's a niche that like you get a amount of audience buy-in, and like, I don't know, you have stuff like the Blumhouse stuff that's coming, like that being just like a label, and also like the new Sam Barlow stuff that's going on.
True.
Michael Lutz is making a fucking video game with Sam Barlow. That's crazy. So there's like stuff in this space I'm excited about, but like nothing is gonna be like Silent Hill 2 in terms of like it's fucking Konami, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, you know, I'm cool with Silent Hill 2 being the only Silent Hill 2 in a sense. I just also I want more video games for adults.
Yep,
that's what I would like, you know. But
Are there any books like Disco Elysium?
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
There aren't any fucking video games like it, I'll tell you that, I guess. Well, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
You ever think about how Disco Elysium's kind of an adventure game? I think about that all the time. It's cool. Yeah. Adventure games, they're cool.
Yeah. This one's from Emerus. Hope you're having a good October so far. Are there any remakes in your minds that actually do a better job delivering the themes of the original? Most importantly, what's the best Halloween candy?
I'm trying to think, because Sour Patch Kids is my first thought, but I don't know if that's Halloween candy. You know what I'm saying? That's just good candy. I've also been kind of into the Nerds gummy clusters. Those are good.
Those are good. Yeah. I'm not a huge candy person. I like Kit Kats, but I eat Kit Kats any time of the year.
Right.
So.
Well, I think it hits different when you're a kid. I'm trying to think what was I like psyched out of my mind to get. The thing is, I was really excited when they give you like, there were some houses, because we lived right at the foot of the mountain in my neighborhood, and there were houses like way far up where they didn't get a lot of kids, and so they just bought candy bars. And so you get like a full Snickers bar, and that's what I was pumped about. Doing. But I don't know. I also just like a little Reese's, that's classic. I love peanut butter, so that hits for me. I don't know. This is a good question. I think there are ones that are comparable. I don't know if there's one that's better. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I don't know that I have the expertise.
I think the big one is Resident Evil. Um, that is like
Sure.
that is such a masterpiece in like just video game design to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's such like one of a kind thing.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. Because they don't, it took them a lot longer to make a 2 remake, and it's very different,
Yeah.
from that. So, yeah, I don't think I have I'm not saying that no, there's never been a time that the remake has done better on thematic stuff than the original, but I couldn't say what it is.
Yeah. I'll think on it. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we got an email from Liv, who says, while I've not played Silent Hill 2 Remake, I do have a couple questions. I watched one developer preview before the game came out, where they talked about how the modernized camera meant that they could show more of the verticality of Silent Hill 2. One early example was how this changes the look of the apartment complex James visit near the start of the game. How do you feel like this changed your relationship to the space, if at all? So... What'd you say?
I said it doesn't.
I don't think it really does. I do think that because there's more shots in Silent Hill 2 Original that are like overhead of James, and I think the feeling of claustrophobia is very good, and the game does lose that a little bit from the new camera. So I would say it's worse, I guess, but yeah, I don't think because there's a lot of enclosed small spaces that you're in. You're not in a lot of like vistas of like sight and sound where you need verticality, I
think the one time the game does this is like when the rain starts falling indoors and they like focus the camera upward to focus on that.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But like you don't need a different camera angle to convey that, because that's just also in the original game.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really get much out of a sense of verticality in this game.
No.
Other than this opening has white curtains around it. That means I have to climb up.
Yeah. Okay, and then also, you're tasked with coming up with a new ending for Silent Hill 2. What do you settle on? This is a brutal fucking question, because I don't think one should do this. They did. I keep coming with ideas that I don't like.
My brain, just because I'm so Twin Peaks pilled, is like,
yeah,
you do like the Laura doppelganger thing, but for Mary, and then Mary kills James.
Sure.
That's probably like, just thinking about it in the 2 minutes we've had is.
Yeah. No, that's a perfectly good answer.
Like either Mary or like Angela. But
yeah,
like it should be Mary.
No, I think you're right. I was trying to think about something with Angela. You could also just like full on Pet Cemetery Mary Resurrection, so that's like but that's just adding to Rebirth or whatever. There's like a scene of like perverted domesticity or whatever. I like, that was my first thought. And I was like, but that's whatever. Like, it's already implied. You don't need another image to do that.
Yeah.
I was also trying to think if there's something with like in relationship to the other games, and I don't know. I think I'll double your answer.
Yeah, I just think it would be interesting because there's no ending that like where Mary has a voice, really.
Yeah.
I feel like you can do like a New Game Plus ending where Mary gets her revenge.
Yeah,
I think that'd be fun. it also just reveals how David Lynch-brained I am. But
yes,
that's fine. I'll wear that on my sleeve, I guess.
yeah. Literally nothing wrong with it.
All right, next one is from Jupiter. I have a silly question. If you remember any restaurants in Silent Hill 2, which one would you eat at, and what would the Yelp score of that restaurant be? I'm going to Happy Burger.
Yeah.
I need to know how good it is. I'm doing a YouTube review of Happy Burger.
I was trying to remember, what is the pizza place called? Do we know what the pizza place is called?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I'll check. Fuck it, I'll go get some pizza.
Yeah, why not?
I think
maybe the pizza is from the bowling place.
Maybe it is. But I will eat that pizza. I will eat this bowling alley pizza, and I bet it's like 5-star reviews from like a dad and their kids who are like, yeah, we had a great time, and like the pizza was yummy, and like I had such a fun time out with my kids. And it's like a 1-star review from like someone who's actually from Silent Hill and is like, I come here every weeknight. like the food, everything's stinky or like whatever. Anyway, so it's like a middling score, but you can't tell like does this mean it's good or bad? Like I don't. What? That's what I would guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one thing I appreciate about Silent Hill in general is like, I just appreciate so much just all the fake stores and street signs and ads and stuff. It's all very good.
Well, it's all handcrafted too. There's this real, I don't know. It's just very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Faden.
Minmo.
Minmo?
Minmo.
Minmo?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. I was like, then a logo flashed in my mind.
Classic Silent Hill 3 Minmo.
Yeah. Minmo. Okay. Final question from Faden. Is it possible for a remake to be better than the original, or is that inherently impossible? I tend to lean towards impossible. I don't know. I mean, I guess I think the question for me is like whether it sits alongside the original as like an interesting contribution, or whether it feels like a replacement or like a simple reworking, you know?
Yeah. I think about this. My brain goes to like JRPGs, like
right,
like the pixel remasters of Final Fantasy. It's like there's like quality of life stuff, but does it mean it's better? Like not really. It is more just like adapting it to modern sensibilities and making it so I can consume the game in the world where I work 40 hours a week. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that necessarily means it's better or worse.
Yeah. Like I would be, because I've seen both of them, but it was far apart. But I mentioned the Herzog Nosferatu remake. Like I would not, if someone's like, oh, that I like that better than the silent one, I would not be like, you're insane. You know, like that's so wrong or whatever. I mean, you know, I think they're both interesting. They're both good. I think there's reasons why people might like one over the other. And that reads as valid to me. So, you know, but I think also part of it is that Nosferatu is like, it's a Dracula adaptation. You know, it's a little bit more, I think lends itself a little bit more to having like multiple riffs on it. It's like a myth that you retell.
Yeah.
A little bit more than it's like a like franchise media property that is like, you know. So I think that aura affects it a little bit. Like, is this something like, you know, someone can make another movie that's like a fairy tale, that's like Cinderella, you know, and I'm not like, oh, that's a remake of the, you know, Disney film, right? It can just be kind of its own thing and sit alongside all the other things that are in this vein, you know? So, yeah, I think it just depends on like that feeling for me. Like whether, I think it's really the thing, is like, is it in conversation with, or is it trying to like replace or override or update? Because I don't know why I don't know why you need to update a thing, you know.
Romeo plus Juliet.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just saw someone the other day say that I don't know why I let people convince me to watch horror movies from before 1990. They're always bad, and I did want to die.
That's not even true.
It's so false. I don't know. People are weak.
Yeah, that's so true. I watched The Thing yesterday. What do you
Well,
mean?
okay, the Thing was the one exception according to them. That's the one.
Oh my
good
God!
one.
Shut up. You're gonna tell me Alien is not a banger?
Yeah, that's what they literally said that in this thread. I was losing my mind.
That's
Oh,
yeah.
it's
No,
very weird. I don't know. Listen. It's fine to not like a movie. Morally, whatever. But I just don't. I just feel
You're
like
just
you
gonna
were
throw out decades of film. Like, that's
well, I know.
crazy.
Some people are proudly and curious, and like that. That sucks for them, right? Like, too bad you don't get to experience like the things that I get to, because I am more open to what life has to offer me.
I was thinking about Persona the other day, the Bergman movie.
Oh yeah,
because I was also thinking about the Serial Experiments Lane game. The Lane game is just Persona, and I think that's great.
yeah, true. It's cool. What a cool game.
It's great.
Okay, shall we do plugs?
Yeah.
We did not.
Oh my
we
gosh.
did not dethrone Alan Wake 2. Thank God. But
Thank God.
but got
I don't even
closer.
remember what we talked about in the Alan Wake 2 one. I just went into a fugue state with that one.
That was like truly. I mean, that is a long game.
It's a long game. It was also exciting because it was like stuff that I liked from Remedy games just coming back. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this whole fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're new, we do a game club every month where we play a horror game and talk about it. We are doing Rule of Rose next. That's our next game club. But we've also covered like the old Silent Hill games. We've done 1 through 4. We've done the first 3 Fatal Frame games.
Those are so
we did
good.
Resident Evil Remake. Lane, I just mentioned. There's a bunch of good stuff that we've covered, both old and new, that you can check out at spookygame.club. You will find links to our Discord. All of our socials are there. And just check out the show. Patreon.com/thesaferoom is where you can go to support us financially. If you would like to continue to see us cover games, especially new ones. This game is $70.
$70.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess I'll also say I will have one other podcast appearance talking about this game at another place, and I also landed a pitch. So I will be writing and talking about this for a little bit longer yet, which I'm happy about, but is also kind of a bummer in some ways. But yeah, look forward to that. You can follow me at grace_machine.bluesky.social, and it's just gracemachine.bluesky.social, and then grace_machine on Twitter. Yeah. Anything
you can find me everywhere on Blues Rose. Blues Rose 430 is my handle everywhere. I'm mostly on Blue Sky in terms of public facing social media these days. Me too. In addition to Discord as well. So yeah.
All right. I guess also imaginaryenginereview.ghost.io tier. It's a website about video games. Yeah.
Until next time.
In my Westless dreams.
Silent Hill!